So when you two have students do getting up in front of class and speaking or other kinds of oral communication, what expectations do you set for them? What's reasonable kind of good oral communication in history class looks like?
Well, one, I think that the key is that whatever you're presenting, it should not have been the first time you practiced it. So I think that especially when there's a smaller speaking assignment or a smaller project, that there isn't sometimes then as much sort of forethought to say, I should really time this, I should practice it, I should just sort of see how confident I feel when I'm speaking and not necessarily looking right at the material. So the first piece of advice I always give is don't have your sort of first go at this be when you come into the classroom space.
And
Yeah.
especially if you're doing this as part of a group, which students will be doing.
Yes.
But as an individual too. I sometimes tell people actually go to the space and do it as well. And that's partly
Yes.
technology. You know, you want to make sure that you know how to operate all the different Bethel equipment.
Because sometimes I think a common thing when you're working in a group in presentations is that if you don't kind of work on everyone's timing, it's so common that, I mean, I've done this to other people where your piece ends up being much longer than you anticipated, and then now the next person has to adjust. So,
Yeah, and I don't usually have students present in groups, but I do have students present individually, and I actually make students turn in their notes that they use
that's a good tip.
Mm.
to prep their talk before, as well as talk. So
I mean, having done probably assignments like this, what do students, besides preparation, what do they struggle with the most? What, as you're writing comments, what do you tend to write over and over to people who are struggling with speaking?
I think the need to really focus on what needs to be a part of what they're actually delivering. So, and part of that is the professor's job to, I think, really make clear what your expectations are. So I think something that I've learned over the years is that if I don't say, these are sort of the highlights I want you to hit of what the overall project is, then everyone runs out of time because the presentation just becomes sort of reading through the whole thing. And so it's the need for the professor to articulate the expectations, but for the students to really pay attention to whatever the criteria is, and to not just see it as kind of standard presentations you have maybe done in high school where your goal is to sort of give a book report, or but to really pay attention to what the assignment calls for.
and I think too, one of the situations that I have with students is that some students feel really nervous about presenting in front of other people. And this might sound like cheesy advice, but I usually say, act confidently, and sometimes you actually come to believe in your own, acting confident, and that helps sometimes when you're thinking about delivering your stuff to an audience. And plus, they have to do it too, so everybody's in the
Yeah.
same
There's
boat.
that, right.
I think it's good too to remember that I think your mindset is such that you always sort of think that the audience, including your professor, is just sitting there waiting for you to make an error. Instead of recognizing that whatever your topic has to be, you've sort of become in a way the expert on that. So everyone is actually just learning from you. They're not listening to you through the lens of wanting to pick
Right.
apart what you're
And
saying.
at Bethel, we're cheering you on.
That's very
actually
true.
we're cheering you on. We don't want to see you fail. We want you to
Yes.
do well.
And I think particularly within our department and different personalities, we look at oral presentations as an opportunity to equip you with a skill that we know
Yeah.
not everyone loves doing.
Right.
So we think we can't avoid it. So I think
Right.
we tend to be even more encouraging because we recognize that this doesn't come easily to everybody, but we also we don't want to send you out unequipped.
And that was
Right.
my sense too, is I think probably history majors generally are pretty good writers coming in.
Yeah.
Hopefully we make them better, and maybe speaking is a little less comfortable, but I wonder, is there an analogy between a good writer and a good
Yes.
speaker? Do some of the
Yes,
same
I think
principles
so.
carry
Yeah.
across?
Yeah.
Mhm. I think it's that need to edit is a
Absolutely.
big piece to make sure that in your writing the most important pieces are what are coming through,
Yep.
supported by all of the other details that are necessary. And I think in terms of presentation, it's the same thing. It's
Right.
picking out the pieces that really are going to connect
Right.
your whole story, and the things that, I always say, when you're done, what 3 things do you want people to remember? And everyone should be able to at least identify after hearing you what kind of the key pieces were. So
Right.
don't worry about getting in everything. Worry about really hitting those 3
Right.
things or
And I would
whatever.
say if you're a good writer and a good thinker, even if it doesn't come naturally to you as a speaker, you will be a good speaker because you will
That's
have
right.
content and something to say.
No, I think that the connection lies in the fact that the writing maybe is where your confidence comes from, so you just have to translate that then into your presentation. See them as really being cohesive and not too independent of each other.